Hey, welcome back to the Grit Culture. This is Corey. Uh, please like, share, subscribe. Let's continue to build this channel up piece by piece. You know, slow grind. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a particular subject. This Vlad TV interview with this cat named Kyle Dawson. Before we get into it, I'll just give you a little backstory. So, I'm pretty sure everybody knows Vlad TV. He's been getting a lot of pushback lately, for his views on Minister Farrakhan. A lot of guys who used to interview on his channel, guys like, Lord Jamar, Godfrey, or whatnot. They're not doing any more interviews with Vlad. Because Vlad has his views on Louis Farrakhan, and he shared them during the interview. Now that the interviews were taken down, but Vlad didn't backtrack. He didn't apologize for what was said. So it's led to this. So many artists around the industry, decide not to do interviews with DJ Vlad. Now, while Vlad does have, a lot of questionable content, a lot of stuff I just wonder, like, man, what are you thinking? He's a pioneer in the game, a pioneer in the hip hop internet interview game, if you want to say so. He's been here since the start, been on YouTube since the mid 2000s, when, before, YouTube ever really got going. So Vlad's been in it. He's put a lot of money in pockets. He's been an innovator when it's come to this come to these things. So, he's part of the culture. He's made his lane. But like I said, he goes too far sometimes, I believe. He's done some things that, I've questioned. I'm like, why would you title the video in that manner? But anyway, let's get to it. So, over the past few weeks, he's been interviewing Young Buck of G Unit. A great interview. Was a huge fan of G Unit, back in the day. Young Buck was an amazing lyricist, huge fan of him. It's sad the different revelations, the alleged revelations that's come out about him, but that doesn't change the great content that he's put out. Whatever goes on in that man's life or whatever, that's between him and God. But, he's been speaking a lot about 50 Cent. And, when Vlad gets on a particular subject, he likes to delve deep into it, such as what he did with, NWA or Tupac. He gets one guy to talk about the subject or talk about the particular artist, and then he'll find more people that can bring other perspectives and other stories out that, whether you've heard them before, whether it can be corroborated or stories that you've never heard before. And he did this with 50 Cent. So this wasn't Vlad doing the interview. It was somebody who works under him. Sorry if I don't know the name. But conducting the interview with a guy named Kyle Dawson. Kyle Dawson claims to be a former president of Murder Inc., former A&R at Def Jam. And within these particular interviews, he says he was in the car when 50 Cent was shot. And he ended up taking shots himself. He also claims that he learned some of the drug game from 50 Cent's mother. Now, subsequently, 50 saw these interviews, and I was skeptical when I saw it too. It just seemed, maybe, I don't know these guys, I don't know any of these characters, but seemed a little far fetched, and I had never heard of this guy. I've always been into hip hop music, and viewed a lot of these stories. I've never heard of Kyle Dawson before, and 50 Cent is pretty vivid when he tells the story. So there being somebody else with him at the time of the shooting, that would have been a detail that probably would have been elaborated at some point in his career, and I've never heard that. So it was to no surprise when 50 Cent basically called fraud on the interview. Called the interview a fraud, and demanded that it be taken down, and it quickly was snatched. Vlad took the interview down quick. 50 Cent says everything in the interview is a lie. Now, I did just a quick little look, and not too deep of research, but looked up the name Kyle Dawson, Google, YouTube, just to see if there's any archives or anything on this guy. He's got a few other interviews where he's basically telling the same story. But you don't see anybody really co-signing him. Also says he's a former member of the Supreme Team, but you don't see him in the mix with anything, which, that doesn't tell the whole story. But you just don't really see him anywhere. And like I said, you don't have anybody co-signing what he's saying. You don't have anybody that can confirm who this guy is. He says he was the president of Murder Inc. But his name doesn't pop up in no records. Nowhere. Not even in the records that they have on the Department of Justice. Of all the members of Murder Inc., or everybody who was getting charged when they raided the company because of the dealings with Supreme. Kyle Dawson's name doesn't pop up anywhere. Can't find anything. Can't find anybody mention him in interviews or anything from back in the day. You could just find stuff from the past 10 years where he does, little small time interviews. He does have a link with Mr. Cheeks from the Lost Boys, but that's the only thing that can really be confirmed. So, he has some link. Claims to be a former Supreme Team member. Just don't really see him anywhere. It's just odd, man. Just odd. And then you see this, Vlad takes the interview down quick. There's a lot of guys that have stories and speak on 50 in positive ways and in ways that aren't so, they don't have too many good things to say about him. But you don't see 50 Cent going around and trying to take, Bang'em Smurfs interviews down. So what would make this one any different? And they got to vet these guys, man. They got to vet these guys before they do interviews. Like I said, he's on a little small time channel. Seems like he has some females that he was able to, basically manipulate. Just take a look on YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about. Manipulate, telling me, he's a 4-time Grammy Award winner. He's even on some type of talent show. They basically, looked at him like as if he was certified. But nobody knows who this dude is. Says he was the president of Murder Inc. around the time 50 Cent got shot. First of all, the president of Murder Inc.'s always been listed. It's even listed within the DOJ as Irvin Lorenzo, Irv Gotti. Vice president, his brother Chris Lorenzo. Chris Gotti. He says he was kicking it with 50 Cent. He was close with him. It was with him at the time he got shot. But why would, just seems inconsistent. Doesn't seem like the way inconsistent to, who 50 Cent is and how he moves. And, he had already had multiple altercations with Murder Inc., stemming from the point, Ja says it came from, 50 Cent didn't like the fact he was getting all the love in the neighborhood. But then you have multiple people, including 50 Cent, that say 50 was with a guy who robbed Ja for his chain. They met up in Atlanta, crews ran into each other. They say a bat was swung by Ja. They say 50 connected on a punch. Then you had the situation at the Quad Studio where the crews met up. Lights get cut off and Black Child ended up stabbing 50 Cent where he only required stitches. So you had altercations even leading up to the shooting. And, you had the disses, the Life's on the Line from the Power of the Dollar album. The disses and interviews. These guys didn't like each other. So it's very, very hard to believe. Very, very hard to believe that he would even have this guy within his vicinity. But man, this shit's crazy. This shit is crazy. I don't know, man. It's God must have an issue, man. God's clearly, I don't know. It's just stuff doesn't add up, man. It doesn't add up at all. And it's multiple people seeing this. Stuff just seems weird, man. So you're just wondering, if you can find out, you can confirm anything or tell me who this guy is, send it here. But yeah, the whole situation, man, I don't even know why Vlad even, Vlad's looking for stories, man. Vlad tries to stay, in front of the game. I don't think he's hurting for stories because he finds, real good interviews. He's able to find good interviews, but I think sometimes he gets ahead of himself. And I think this was just one of those times, man. One of those times, doing stuff like this, interviewing the Pound Side Pop guy. These are guys that he never would have even touched. But if it wasn't for, his beef with Meek Mill, speaking on Pound Side Pop, stuff like that. Vlad gets ahead of himself. He going for the salacious interviews, stuff, the tabloid type of stuff, man. That ain't cool. So yeah. Kyle Dawson, man, this is crazy. I don't know where this guy came from. But yeah, if you let me know what you think about this, man. If you know anything else about this guy, Kyle Dawson, or if he has any history, anything, let me know in the comment section. Educate me on this. I'm out.